Hey Scott, how you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Good. Oh, great, great. Well, listen, it was great catching up last week and learning a little bit about yourself and Chipotle. And I'm excited for, I guess, the next 40 minutes. We're going to talk about gaming, right? And the future of it. But, really what's it been like for Chipotle over the past, your guys' journey over the past many, I think 4 or 5 years you've been in it, and maybe even more. And then I'll, talk a little bit about StreamElements and our journey over that same time frame. And I think we've all had a great experiences last year, others better than others, but I know Chipotle has been doing great. And, you and I've talked, so we're not going to spend too much time on COVID, but really about, the communities in gaming and everything that you guys did during that time, and what you're doing more in the future. So, but again,
That
welcome.
sounds great.
Super stoked.
Yeah,
So please, I guess, let everyone know a little bit about yourself and your role. That would be great.
sure. Yeah. My name's Scott Robinson. Been with Chipotle for almost 17 years, so it's been a long run. I manage all of our partnerships and experiential events. Obviously, a lot of those things used to be more IRL in real life, but we've been having a lot of success with digital partnerships and experiences, and so we're really kind of leaning into that. I don't just lead our gaming strategy. I also work on our music and music strategy, and also things that we do within sports and more traditional sports and sports marketing, and working with athletes and things like that. So it's kind of those three pillars. We're always looking to drive culture at Chipotle and show up where our fans are. And obviously, the gaming space is just absolutely exploding. That's no surprise to anyone. And we're just trying to figure out the right ways to show up and add value to the community. So. Yeah.
You guys have always done a great job at, we're going to talk more into this about the culture, aligning with the cultures versus just sponsorship. And so I really applaud you guys' efforts. I don't know as much in the sports area, but obviously in the gaming area, and quite actually in music too. So I'm curious, which ones are, what are you most, I know from a personal perspective, not corporate perspective, where are you a gamer? Are you more sports? Everyone loves music.
I would say, yeah, everyone likes music, right? So, I definitely grew up watching a lot of sports. I think when it comes to gaming, I'm big into a lot of the sports games, NBA 2K and FIFA and Madden. And I am definitely learning a lot more about the space through my 13 and 10-year-old kids. So they're my research. But yeah, I would say, it's just an exciting space because there's so much to learn, and I think all of us can admit that we're learning every day, and it's a constantly evolving, changing space that you really have to keep your finger on the pulse. Yeah.
Yeah, you do. It's funny. Likewise for myself, a prior job I had with some relationship to gaming, but coming on board here, I use my kid, 13-year-old, right, as kind of like this litmus test of what's going on in the culture, what's happening in the communities, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting for StreamElements over the past really 2 years since I've been here, but that StreamElements being like the production stack that really fuels these streamers in their communities, right? So the company had started with really this purpose of a cloud-based tech stack that was more of a SaaS platform, because streamers that they needed the tools, they needed that production creative stack to engage, communicate. Right, so your kids are probably using some of our tools, or the creators, or some of the creators you guys have worked with are probably some of them using our tools. And what was amazing over our journey the past 2 years was that brands started to recognize, wow, there's gaming and live, that there is a community here. And they always knew it, but they weren't paying attention to it as much because of, I think it was pushed by COVID more. Right. Obviously, some brands were more in this space than others. Not understanding it's no different than sports, or it's no different than music, right? That it's not, someone only 12 years old, or our kids 13 and 10 in their bedroom or their basement. So that journey was interesting for us, only because we started working with brands across the board in the gaming and in the more of packaged goods space, and all across the way. You saw brands really starting to say, wow, you're right, it's no different than live sports. And there's a community sometimes of 200,000 people, and there's graphics happening, and this is even better than live TV. I can, engage too, right? And it was a really interesting journey. And I think in all cases, those brands started coming to us and saying, hey, we're either about to run here, or we're already been walking. Excuse me, we're about to crawl. Excuse me, we're about to crawl here. Or we've been walking and now we're about to run. And we've always listened really patiently to make sure, because with gaming, you can't rush anyone, you know, and I think a lot of brands have gone into that, whether it's been in esports, sometimes with big sponsorships of teams, or just starting to dive into the community. And I love, for you, let us talk a little bit, not so much about StreamElements now, but about Chipotle's journey into the space, right? Because I definitely know you guys kind of crawled and you waited for the response, right? And then you walked. And I think it's up to you to say if you're running or not now. It's not up to me. But let's spend like the next 10 more minutes to talking about that journey for you guys. And if you'd share it, I guess, a little bit from, I think, 2016 when it all started through now.
That sounds great. Yeah. I guess I'd like to say we're probably jogging right now. I'm not sure we're running. We're definitely past the crawl phase. Yeah, I mean, I think from the beginning, we wanted to make sure that, you know, this was not something that we were going to just make a big splash in overnight. We knew this was a journey over years. And so, you know, anything we thought about, we have sort of the long term in mind. Yeah, it did go back to, we really kind of dipped our toes in, and I think it was more 2017 with the Optic Gaming team and Hector and Scump. They were all living in Chicago, and I was starting to watch a lot of YouTube videos, and all of a sudden I'm watching these guys and they're eating Chipotle all the time in these videos. And I'm like, why are we not supporting like this community? That it's a little, at the time, maybe like untraditional, but you know, and so we reached out and ended up, you know, putting a nice little partnership together with them, tried a few things that year. We had our logo on their patch, and they went and won the Call of Duty World Championships that year. So that worked out pretty well. And they were great to work with. And then, you know, in 2019, we also, our new CMO, Chris Brandt, came through, and he was very, very passionate about, you know, really ramping up our efforts within gaming and esports. We had kind of come across Myth from the TSM Fortnite house. And those guys, and same thing. I mean, they were loving Chipotle. It's like, let's check them out. This was when Fortnite was particularly exploding. And just learned so much from that partnership, from content to, you know, some of the contests that we did. And that really evolved then, I think, really into where we are now, with especially with some of our partnerships with the 100 Thieves team. You know, really, it's kind of where, you know, Nate Shot was a huge Chipotle fan. It was so easy. This was like not a forced partnership at all. And obviously he's got some amazing, you know, people within that organization, and they do incredible content. And they've been good partners. I think that was sort of when we made the decision to sort of lean a little bit more into gaming than the hardcore esports. I think just based on some of those successes that we've had, I think it kind of comes from, we've gotten a great sense of them being very collaborative. I think creators are often, they're live more often on Twitch. They're streaming more often. They know what their audiences really want from a content perspective. And when you want to launch a menu item, or you want to do something, they know what their audiences are really, you know, going to like. And so we've had some great success with that, and Courage, and now we're working with Tim the Tapman and Booga and some others. But that authenticity is key for us in anything we do across music, sports, gaming. You got to be a Chipotle super fan, and then we want to supercharge that and have some fun with those folks. So,
you know, it's interesting because I think a lot of times people forget the community, right? I mean, I know it's so crazy because they think, oh, they just remember influencers. So again, they think they naturally remember, okay, even though they almost forget it's live and what that really means, right? They just think, okay, it's influencer content. It's an edited video, what have you, right? So, and a community this year, I think was more important than ever. And it wasn't to discuss, and it wasn't always about, and it wasn't, and a lot of times people forget that when you're a streamer, and I think you used the word like gamer-tainer streamers, right? You know, we could talk a little bit about that, right? But and I know you touched on it a little bit before. It's about knowing their audience, right? And during this past year, whatever the topic was, COVID, politics, Black Lives Movement, they're gaming, but they're also talking with their audiences and giving perspective, right? So clients, I think, forget that, and brands forget that. And to be a part of it is really important because you're at the center of it. So talk a little bit about like the gaming and tapping into that authenticity, because you and I talked about it a lot, and I think it's really important to stress to the people outside.
Yeah, I mean, I think I didn't come up with that term, but I love it because, you know, they are gaming, and you know, Tim the Tapman plays a lot of Call of Duty, but you know, he's done lots of different things throughout, and you just get, it's more of a general, it's oftentimes more of a general audience than just something very specific, right? And you're able to kind of bring a lot of different things to those communities. And we've had some successes with like some different launches. I think it's important. We just launched our quesadilla and had a really big gaming strategy around that. And that was a digital only menu item. This is a very digital first community. Also quesadilla sales, typically a younger customer. And, we decided to really, lean into gaming for that. And so we partnered with 17 different streamers and with 17 different communities, different audiences. We wanted to make sure that we were reaching a lot of different people, and we sponsored streams, and we gave away a ton of quesadillas and had did some of these overlays and chatbot, and obviously they supported it with social, and then, supported it, eating them live as we got them delivered to them. But that was great. And sometimes these game retainers, they're more open to doing things like that, and their audiences are used to kind of doing different things for different brands, and it's very acceptable. Versus like when you tune in and you're expecting like a certain thing, to consume a certain type of entertainment, right? It's worked for us.
It's so interesting because so many brands will come to me and say, well, isn't it like too intrusive? Don't they feel like if you're using an overlay and then there's content and all these sort of stuff, like, no, their community is a lot of time controlling it. That chat bot, and that creator controls a lot of these things. So they know that they're okay with that. Right. And they it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also, that's where that authenticity comes from, because some things do maybe feel a little bit forced occasionally, but that's why when we go through the filters and talk to people and make sure that fans of Chipotle, and a lot of them had Nate Shop, for an example, had talked about Chipotle organically for many years, and so his audience already knew he was a Chipotle fan. So when you start working with them, it's contextually relevant to that audience. And it just makes it a lot easier. Plus, the community, generally speaking, is excited to see the people that they follow have success, and they know that that's the way things are monetized and things like that. So,
talking about success and all those kind of experiences, right? Particularly, over the year quesadilla and stuff, so forth. How do you guys measure that success? Obviously, it's always somewhat about sales and stuff, but I know for you guys, it's about culture and other things a lot more than just sales and everything. So please share that as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's a question that, a lot of brands are trying to figure out. And, especially since this is a newer space and there's a lot of movement, a lot of ways that you can track success. I think for us, we want to be visible. We want to be relevant, and we want to be consistent, show up consistently. Internally, we say more like we have programs that drive sales, that drive difference, based on our real food, or drive culture. And the things that I work on with gaming and music and sports is more about driving culture, showing up where our fans are and having fun with them. But, to this point, a lot of it is what you would expect. I mean, there are ways, to track impressions and to track, average concurrent viewers and, how many new followers you got. We did start our own Twitch page right at the beginning of the pandemic, not meant to be right there, but that was when we were launching our Chipotle Challenger series digitally. It was an IRL event at the Dream Hacks before that. But so we've got some benchmarks that we use. They're changing little by little every event that we do. I do think like when it comes to like media or like Twitch media, we've had a lot of success there. We've used, we've worked with and partnered a lot of the, Nate Shot and Tim and Brooke from 100 Thieves to come up with, ads for launches, whether it was carne asada or digital ordering, or again, the quesadilla. So when you're seeing a Nate Shot ad, in that ecosystem, in the Twitch ecosystem, it's again, contextually relevant, but the click-through rates and the views are quite a bit above like normal benchmarks. So that's definitely a place that we considered a success.
Yeah. I mean, we see that with tons of clients we work with, is that, the chat bot or any of those, when it's tied into the stream, like the clicking out to promotionally, but it always has to be something driving promotion, right? It can't just be like, and you guys are touching upon it, right? It's got to be about the culture, and you're driving something that's engaged. They're winning too, right? You've always got to position it as something that the entire audience is winning in this. It's not just the brand, right? But what's in it when they go to click, what's in it for them to win. And I think that the streamers, right, they want the same. And I think it's really important. And I'm sure you've come across that with a lot of the creators you've talked about are on our stack. That's the first measure for them, whether you're going to them or your agency or I am. Well, I think one of the first things always creator says is, all right, I got to really think about how this is going to impact my community, or like, what's the value? Even if I love this brand, what the values they're going to drive for my community in this. So again, you guys have done a great job.
I mean, I can kind of go back to the quesadilla example real quick. I mean, we definitely were able to give away food through a text to win, mechanism. And, that made the creators extremely happy that they were able to, whenever we think about something, we want to add value to the community. We won't just want to show up and, just stand out. We want to show up and like give something back. And so they all got super pumped up to give away 1,000 quesadillas this hour, 1,000 quesadillas that hour. And we just actually did a really fun stream, worked with a team called One True Kings out of Austin, OTK. Okay. Very different, talk about community, like a different community. They do a lot of just chatting, kind of general stuff, obviously a World of Warcraft community. And we did this guac or no guac like game show, and we actually hosted it on our Twitch page. And it was extraordinary. We gave away 25,000 free chips and guac, and at different times. And the average time people were watching that show was beyond any benchmark we've ever seen. So, you want to keep folks engaged, like you said, give back a little bit and add that value. So
we know that OTK group very well.
Nice.
They're most of on our stack, and they were doing a whole bunch of Nutter Butter stuff, also going crazy this weekend a bit there. So they're really engaged. Their communities, I mean, I can see like with the quesadilla that going over. It's simple, right? It's just as simple, but they also know the value and what's happening in that hour. Right? Versus like, entering to win this promotion where you might find out like 5 hours later, right? You're giving that instantaneous, you're taking hold of the environment and trying, using it in the time that they're attuned to. Which is really smart, guys.
Instant gratification too, right?
No. I mean, it's smart because a lot of brands wouldn't think that way in the space, right? They're like, okay, let's strive to give it something to give away, right? And that's still great, drives value, but instant gratification, the authenticity of being in the live space, right? And you're creating a fun moment because the gameplay that they're doing is fun, which is important there. I'm curious, like, do you think that a lot of the Chipotle customer base is young, right? And the Gen Z, this whole generation's obviously embedded there, but you guys also have on sports. And I think sometimes there's a misconception that the sports are the older guys, the dads, and the gaming is the younger, right? What's the lens you put on all that? I mean, we touched about it a little earlier, but I think it's just kind of important to how you align with that gaming. Is it just through that Gen Z, or do you look at the whole funnel of the Call of Duty that's probably 45 years old, still playing it and watching the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of goes across a lot of different age groups. I mean, I think the younger generation are the first to sort of be cord cutters and not consume media in a traditional way. And so I think, a lot of brands, including us, are trying to figure out, how can we show up where they're buying things, where they're consuming media, where they're being entertained. Because I used to throw on Chicago White Sox game and watch like 9 innings of it. I don't have time for that anymore, but like, I don't I don't watch games like all the way through anymore, but just what you've got online right now at your fingertips. And so we're just, we're trying to show up where they are. So I think, in general, we are focusing on a younger demographic, a younger Gen Z demographic, but I think the things that we're doing, are appealing to any age group. Yeah. So,
well, listen, you'll even notice on some of the creators' communities skew older, right? Tim the Tag Man, right? Some others like that you mentioned skew much younger than others, right? In the Fortnite genre or the World of Warcraft. So it's on any of those, it's really about they start aging with the game to some degree, right? And and on Call of Duty, everyone's been playing it for a long time. So
it's not going anywhere.
No, it's not. It's just going to gets bigger and bigger, and it starts to get younger audiences as the others grow. And I mean, that's the value of an IP in game, right? And in gaming and so forth, in a much different way than it might be for film. And if you were to line to like big film entertainment pools versus you guys staying really embedded those individual cultures of those three categories. Listen, we have I think 20 minutes or a little shorter left, so I think we should start to maybe turn. That was a good overview, guys. Let's turn to kind of like right now where we are in the future for you guys, right? The rest of this year, and more importantly, as you've indicated to me, you guys continue want to grow in the sports and gaming and music, and it's kind of the platforms as they change, you'll adapt as well. Let's talk a little bit about and as well as like other areas too, retro, diversity, other things that you think are gonna become more important for Chipotle over the next 2-3 years.
Yeah, that sounds good. We maybe split it into two sections. One is sort of what we're thinking as a brand, and then just kind of what are some thoughts on sort of maybe some future things. But yeah, I mean, for us, we want to continue to develop relationships with creators and with talent, and find who those Chipotle super fans are, because that's where we have a ton of success. That's where we want to support them, and it just creates a great partnership when you've got that authenticity. So I can't like stress that enough. I think opportunities for amateur gamers, I mean, that's what our Chipotle Challenger series is kind of based on. It's meant to give the average gamer a chance to qualify and go play against their heroes in Fortnite or Call of Duty, and we're actually looking at some other titles, which is exciting. And so that's beyond the Chipotle Challenger series, how can we add value and give amateur gamers a chance to compete, because a lot of times they're watching something but they can't really be a part of it. Right. And we have almost 10,000 people try to qualify for our Chipotle Challenger series, and sometimes more than that. And so we want to continue to focus on things we can do there. I think piloting, testing, learning, I mean, it's important. We're not super afraid to make a mistake. We want to try things. We want to think a little bit untraditionally. I'll never forget, like when we were working with Myth, we had them in our restaurant to working for the day, and it was a piece of content they were doing. And at first we're like, man, are they gonna like this? And then it came out, it was like 12 minutes long, and we're like, 12 minutes? No one's gonna watch 12 minutes, right? And sure enough, it was like one of their best pieces of content of the year, and it worked out really well. So just kind of getting yourself a little bit out of that non-traditional mindset. But I mean, as a brand, I think it's super important to be nimble. Opportunities present themselves all the time. You just need to be ready for them. A lot of them are extremely hard to plan for. And so that's been something we got a lot better at this year than last year, is, being ready for a big cultural moment, or if we have an opportunity through a publisher or through a creator, let's do this, and that's kind of how the OTK thing came down. And then we just announced a big partnership with Twitch Gaming as a foundational partner. We're really, really excited about that. We're going to be doing some segments in there, and working with creators and the talent, and kind of doing more, again, sort of gamertainment, if we want to keep using that word, which is a place that we've really kind of leaned into. So I think it's a place to interact with young consumers. We know that. We want to show up where they are and find these different avenues to reach them. So, I mean, that's kind of the way we're thinking. And generally speaking, I mean, anyone who says they can think of what the next Fortnite or Among Us or something is crazy. That's not going to happen. I think, we do have some fun things to announce. I wish I could do it on this segment right now, but next month or two, you'll see some stuff. But I mean, as I think about what the future, whether that's, next year or just beyond, I think there's kind of a couple core things. I mean, I think diversity and inclusion is something that's extremely core to our organization. Yep. Any program across it, we always have an eye towards that and the representation, diverse representation. And that obviously trickles down to what I do within gaming. We're super excited to support Brooke and Nico with 100 Thieves. And when we've done our Chipotle Challenger series and had invited guests and invited players, we always have an eye towards making sure we've got a diverse audience across a lot of different communities. So I think it's something that needs help. I think we as a brand are very interested in hearing or, and exploring what are the things coming down the pipeline that are really supporting these causes, because that, that's what we want to be there.
Yeah, we, I'll tell you, as a member of the LGBTQ community, when I came on board a year and a half ago, we were in a great position as a company because we were growing over the past year, and we could embed hiring of all diversities into our culture, right? And particularly in gaming, women, ethnicities, right? In the gaming space, you don't see many creators. The larger ones, okay? There are plenty of creators there, to be clear. Of the larger in that, women are starting to get a little more, and particularly in some esports teams, but even still, they're considered like lucky if they win versus skilled, right?
Right.
Terms like that I see continuously in the press and stuff, right? So last year we kicked off, earlier in the year, before the movement happened, a creator diversity fund where we put in $100,000, accepted applicants. I think we had almost 8,000, chose 20 different creators around the globe. I think around 50% more here, 60% here in the US. Transgender, African American, Hispanic, every ethnicity, female community. It was powerful. And as we stayed committed to it, we hired someone internally that works with these creators continuously through the year to build their feeds. And I can tell you, even us as a company have learned throughout this past year, and there is no answer here. But unless you're constantly talking about it and starting to bring up those creators and help them to get a bigger voice, and we all have to do a better job of that. And listen, in all categories, I'm not just saying gaming, but in gaming, again, there's a community. They're talking there. It's not like supporting a sports player in a different way on watching a TV in a gaming community. It's really there. So I'm happy to hear that Chipotle and your thinking is it's in that same line for the future.
Yeah. I mean, we've got, like you said, we've got a ways to go, but we definitely want to make it happen and find those opportunities to support that platform and so I mean, I think that's something that again, like you said, it's not just gaming, but the gaming and esports community definitely will benefit from pushing those initiatives forward.
They're one of the last communities that still has it put it to the center. You know what I mean? Like we've all seen this movements happen over the past 5 years, from entertainment to sports. I mean, just to regular business, Wall Street even, and and while the gaming industry's had some tough comments over the past few years in some areas, it hasn't been as probably big as a topic as it should be. But again, it's all started on some lighter things for the future. What do you think about gaming? Like, what do you think? Obviously, you guys want to be the forefront of it. So when a creators or new games coming out, it's always hard to tell what's the next big thing. But you guys must look at trends. You have teams of research. What are you looking at internally? From your strategy team and yourself of games there.
Well, I think there's two things we've kind of got some interest in. I mean, I think we'll always be a part of some of those, larger communities, the Call of Duties and the Fortnites, and we want to have a presence there. But I think two things that kind of stand out to me are retro gaming, and we talked a little bit about age groups and things like that. I mean, that Gen Z really embraces nostalgia and embraces retro. And my 13-year-old daughter has a Nintendo T-shirt. She hasn't even, she doesn't own one. So I think that, and also just the fact that the speed racing, you're seeing that as just a really popular channel in streaming. I mean, I still remember the old Contra game. Remember up, down, left, right, BA, to get unlimited lives. And so I think there's just some fun there. And I think it's not, when you say retro, you immediately think of a certain age group. I think younger folks are really into what was Super Mario Brothers or this or that.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, so I think you're going to see some stuff there. What we're going to do, still talking about, but I think you'll see retro gaming making a little bit. It already has, made a little bit. I also think mobile gaming, I mean, we're looking at a couple things right now. I mean, I think, just the ability to kind of overcome with 5G, just that issue of connectivity and just not a very great gameplay at the end of the day, which is why it really hasn't totally taken off. And I think, you know, with 5G and that, I think you're going to see more of it. The gameplay's better, and I think we love it as we talk about inclusion and you know, casual gamers. You know, I think it's going to make it gaming much more inclusive and approachable, accessible, affordable. And so, you know, I'd like to see, and we're definitely, you know, keeping our eye on sort of where mobile gaming is going for sure, and cloud gaming.
Yeah. I mean, we've been looking at it too, because a lot of the gamers that you work with, right? They're not doing a lot of mobile game time play, right? They'll talk about it, and a lot of times actually they'll do sponsorships around mobile games, and you know if they're actually doing it, that's when they really do love the mobile game. Like they will not align to a bad game at all. You know, so overall, I think it's going to continue to grow, and I completely agree on the retro games. Just we actually see spikes in viewership a lot of time when you have that, right? And we'll give that data to the streamers, and they're like, "Wow, I just did that for fun. So should I actually do it more?" And that's it's a little bit of the audience data you can give them, and they start to learn, and then they start to do it as more. Any thoughts? I think we only have like a few minutes left.
Yeah, I think we got a couple minutes. I mean, I definitely, the metaverse thing is super interesting to me. You know, feels like, you know, Fortnite and Minecraft and Roblox have kind of built the foundations for what it potentially could look like. But, you know, instead of jumping online and going certain places to buy things, you know, in a couple years or even next year, are people going to go into these metaverses and shop? And is it going to be a new, you know, social media sort of platform in so many words? You know, I think it's pretty complex, and it seems like it's pretty expensive to create a metaverse, especially for a brand. But you know, there's something there, and I think you're going to see kind of the evolution of that, and what that looks like is still yet to be seen. But I know we're super interested in. I am as well. Yeah.
It's listen, all of these areas of gaming, whether it's mobile, meta, predictive, retro, right? And mind you, there's a lot of old IPs that will start to have a mobile version too, right? And a different, like you said, with 5G better, you're going to start to see a lot more of those traditional games, you know, connect to mobile just as an offshoot of that IP and stuff. So if you're already aligned in that space, right, that's easy to start to merge and test these either, right? So I think it's nice to wrap it up, right? You guys are jogging, which I think is actually I'm going to start using that term now, jogging versus running. That's it. It sounds like you're always progressing versus being, you know, a little too arrogant to know running, right? So
we might never get to running. We might never get to running. I'm fine with a comfortable jog right now. So
I agree. No, I agree. Listen, and it's reflective in the conversations, right? That you guys are always listening. You're being authentic to listening to communities, approaching and growing upon each year's results, and listening to those creators and everything. So I really applaud your efforts. And I think we're wrapped up. Any other last words for you?
No, I really appreciate you having me on. It was great to meet you, and you know, definitely let's keep in touch, and we'll go from. Thanks for having me,
Scott. Good. Well, good. Again, you have a great week and enjoy. I appreciate your time.